Yes.
The Clarke County Board of Education meeting come to order. Ms. McNamara, will you please read the roll?
Dr. Spangler?
Here.
Mr. Payne? Mrs. Davis?
Here.
Mr. Parks?
Here.
Mrs. Ellis?
Here.
Mr. Worthy? Mrs. Williams? Mr. Huff? Mrs.
Here.
Thornton?
Here.
All right, will you please have a moment of silent meditation? Now, pledge to the leader.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll now address the agenda. Do we have any amendments to the agenda?
We do. I would like to add a number 25. This is in relationship to the board application for quality board recognition. So it would be to submit, I'd ask that we submit an application for this board to the GSBA to be considered for level 1 quality board recognition.
Do we have a motion to adopt the agenda
To amend
To amend it.
as a document.
as amended? All right, we have a
Second.
first by Dr. Spangler and a second by Ms. Thornton. All those in favor? The agenda is adopted. We'll now proceed with recognition of achievements and awards. Ms. Jimenez.
Good evening, Mr. Vice President, Superintendent, and members of the board. This evening, I'm pleased to recognize many outstanding individuals in the Clarke County School District tonight. Honorees, when I call your name, please come forth, accept your certificate, and shake the board members' hands. First up is Whit Davis Principal Derek Maxwell, who recently won PTO Today's monthly Celebrate the Principal Difference contest. And the school will receive a $500 gift card because of this award. And so before Principal Maxwell comes up, I will read a little bit of his nomination.
He's coming up. He's coming. He wants to be beside you, I think. There we go. He wants to be close.
Here's what parent Sharon Dickerson said in her nomination. For the past 7 years, Whit Davis Elementary School has sold the Fantastic Savings Coupon Book to raise funds for our PTO. The coupon book includes coupons to hundreds of local businesses. Last year, in 2012, our PTO set a fundraising goal of $10,000. Students were offered the opportunity to come up with something fun for our principal to do if they reached the goal. Classes submitted ideas, and our principal, Derek Maxwell, drew from the submitted entries. The winning entry required Principal Maxwell to ride a tricycle around the school's track while students who had sold at least 10 coupon books threw water balloons at him. The kids were so excited, even the ones who didn't get to throw the water balloons. Principal Maxwell was a trooper through it all. In fact, he was a hero to one little pre-K student who threw her balloon but missed him. Principal Maxwell, realizing what had happened, backed up his tricycle, picked up the water balloon, handed it to the student, and sat there while she threw it at him, busting open and soaking him. And just this, going the extra mile, is why he was the recipient of PTO Today. So that's the national organization. Their Celebrate the Principal Difference contest for last month, I believe. So please come on up, Principal Maxwell.
Congratulations.
And next, we would like to recognize our 4-star awards winners. And again, these can be nominations can be made by any school district employee, parent, volunteer, community member. Anyone can nominate a Clarke County School District employee to receive one of these awards. And first tonight, we'll award one. Is Michael Hamilton here from Cedar Shoals? Okay, I knew you had practice tonight, so I wanted to make sure. And Michael is a collaborative teacher, and he was nominated for this award by Erin Adamson. So I'll read her nomination first, and then we'll have Mr. Hamilton come on up. She said, Mr. Michael Hamilton is a collaborative teacher in the social studies department at Cedar Shoals High School. He's an exemplary collaborative teacher and an asset to the social studies department. He is adept at finding balance between his coaching duties and teaching responsibilities. He is a proactive teacher who is always on the lookout for new and engaging materials to use in the classroom. He mentors many student athletes from the football team and makes pivotal connections with them in the classroom. His professional, calm, and respectful demeanor always wins over even the most difficult of students. I nominate Michael Hamilton for his dedication to the teaching profession and because I appreciate his hard work and his proactive, optimistic approach to education each day. Please come up, Mr. Hamilton. And next we have Christopher Penley. And he was nominated for this award by Stacy Carson, and she nominated him for this award when she was a gifted teacher at the end of last year at Alps, and Ms. Carson is now a vice principal at one of our other schools. And she said, as a new gifted teacher, I could not have asked for a better mentor, and Mr. Penley is one of our gifted specialists. From the start of the 2012-13 school year, Mr. Penley has gone above and beyond his mentor responsibilities to make me feel comfortable in my new position. I appreciate his dedication to the Alps Road Gifted program as shown through his consistent attendance of my eligibility committee meetings and program planning meetings. In addition, Mr. Penley is always quick to respond to my many questions about testing procedures and scheduling. Without his support, our program last year would not have grown by 3 students, nor would we be able to provide students the ability to complete portfolios and explore the idea of implementing the school-wide enrichment model. Furthermore, Mr. Penley is a kind and patient mentor who uses these qualities to promote the growth of his mentees through a respectful and professional relationship. Congratulations on this well-deserved award, Christopher Penley. And next we have Jan Spurgeon, a teacher at Barrow Elementary, and she was nominated by her colleague Sarah Clarke. And Sarah Clarke said, Jan is an unflinchingly compassionate educator. She is a peer educator, always willing to collaborate. Her generosity with time is the quality that is so special about Jan. She is always willing to listen and seems to have an unlimited capacity to support both students and colleagues. She is an outstanding example of the guide by your side with no ambiguity as to her 100% commitment to excellence for all. There is no question she believes all students can learn as well as all adults, no matter the starting point or the content. Jan Spurgeon. And finally, we have Rosetta Strong, who is an administrative assistant in the transportation department, and she was nominated for this award by Danny Ward, the assistant director of transportation. And the nomination reads, Ms. Strong reflects all the desired qualities needed as an administrative assistant. She is dedicated to serving the needs of Clarke County School District students through the capacity of her official position or any other way that she can help out. She always maintains a positive attitude while guiding others to the correct path through methods that prove to be effective. In her daily tasks, she is always ahead of the curve on projects and duties. She is a definite self-starter who does not need to be reminded of the responsibility at hand. The CCSD Transportation Department and the district as a whole has benefited greatly from the 29 years of dedicated service provided by Ms. Rosetta Strong. 4 stars are just a minor reflection to the added value she has maintained. Ms. Strong?
And thank you, Mr. Ward, for the nomination.
Again, congratulations to all of you. You make us proud to be CCSD.
And again, if I can just thank our recipients, the not students, these are those that work in our school every day to support the work of our students. And we'll start seeing next month, when all students and what they're able to do, we get to be able to recognize. But I want to just thank our employees and members of our school community for once again showing us why we're able to do what we do every day.
We're down to item C, recognition of visitors. We have one visitor tonight, Mr. Thomas Cooper. And I must read this note before speaking. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes. A yellow caution card will appear when 1 minute remains, and a red card will appear when time expires. At this point, please conclude your remarks. No speaker shall indulge in personal attacks while speaking. All comments are to be addressed directly to the Board of Education. Personal concerns may be addressed in writing to the superintendent or president of the Board of Education.
My time start now.
You start.
My name is Tom Cooper, and I'm on the Classic City Band Board. I'm the secretary treasurer, and 3 other of my colleagues, fellow players are here: Ken Reed, Sylvia Schaefer, Barbara Reed. And the reason we're here is to ask the board to kindly reconsider the fee increases for use of facilities at Cedar Shoals. We have been, last year we started rehearsing weekly at Cedar Shoals. We rehearse on Tuesday nights, and then we gave 3 concerts there. And the budget increase is sort of overwhelming us because our fees now are $5,000. That's an increase of 400%. That sort of annihilates our budget, but we're sort of between a rock and a hard place, that we have to have a place to go, so we're paying that, but we're going to run out of money quickly. Our band is, we give about 10 concerts a year in the Athens area. Maybe you've heard of us, and maybe you've hopefully come to some of our concerts. We don't charge a single cent. It's all free. So all of the money that we use to maintain the band is money that we get from donations. People like our concerts and give us our very free with their money, giving us donations, and then there are some businesses here in Athens that do the same. So that's the only way we get the money, and it's sort of a struggle just to keep it up. Our band consists of all volunteers. We're about 65 strong, and we're people, musicians from all walks of life. I'm a retired UGA professor. In fact, I taught in College of Education, foreign language education, and I had lots of student teachers that I sent to Cedar Shoals High School and the Clarke Central over the years I was there. We have people, all kinds of people. Now, I think we have a good case if we would be a student support group. That kind of group is not charged any money. We have 30 high school students that play in the band, and we've got them in there this last year. We featured them, actually 3 of them, in one of our concerts 2 years ago as soloists, and we've been giving them gift certificates so that they can use that to buy things at Chick Piano. We would like to extend, sort of have a scholarship program for these high school students, and have even more come and see us and experience the band. In a way, our band is like an extension of the school music program, because we play very serious music, as you can see from these programs, and this gives the kids then a lot of experience that's good for them. Okay, so if you please would reconsider the fees, we would be a lot happier, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. We're now down to item D, Superintendent's Report.
Thank you. We have a very important report this evening I'll get to in just a minute, and that's regarding the safety of our students and safety of our schools. But just again want to thank our teachers and our principals, our parents. As we move into the school year, things are going extremely well. In particular, of course, the Barrow Elementary and their grand opening I thought was terrific for the organizers of that. Certainly Witt and Stroud, as we move through some furniture changes and they complete the work that they needed to do from their renovation project. And kudos certainly to Barnett Shoals as they moved from Barnett Shoals into the old Gaines with little fanfare and just got the work done in a very short period of time, which is, again, speaks to the flexibility and the nimble ability of our teachers to do whatever is necessary to prepare. So, again, the school year continues to go very, very well, and we should be very pleased with the work that's going on in our schools and our classrooms every day. But with that, the large piece this evening of my report is around safety and security. I think we could not be more fortunate to have the Athens Clarke County Police Department working collaboratively with us, and we've seen that over the course of time. It simply doesn't even take a phone call. Usually it's a phone call to us saying we're there. That happened. Every time there's a crisis, you know that there was extra police cars. There were those certainly officers in our schools working with our parents and working with our children, ensuring the safety. But then it comes time around, as you know, it's a very turbulent times in our country about the safety of public places and particularly schools after Sandy Hook. And we obviously take that very serious, and so we engaged in a conversation with the Athens County Police Department to let's get together and see what we need to do collaboratively, because we both have such a priority for the safety of our children. So that's what we did, and I've told you we've gone through a review, and that's what we're going to talk about in the broader picture tonight, is not into the details, but into the broader picture of what the landscape looks like for us and where we're going to move forward to, again, take that next level of safety and security for our students. And I can't thank enough the Clarke County Police Department and Chief Luckman and his team, as the cooperation has been probably some of the best I've ever experienced in my 36 years of education. So with that, I'll introduce Chief Lumpkin, who will begin to introduce our presentation for this evening. And Chief, thank you very much for taking a lead role and helping us do what we need to do.
Thank you, Superintendent, and for inviting us to address the board, and thank you, board members, for having us this evening. As the superintendent said, we've worked in a collaborative effort for many months over the years, we really have, with the Clarke County School District to ensure an enhancement of safety for our students, our faculty, and our staff. And this is at every site. Board members, as you're aware, we've always had emergency operation plans, even when I was going to school here in the 50s and 60s. So the basic fire drill is an emergency operation plan. And each school has plans how to implement protocols and procedures if certain things occur. What we wanted to do is expand that out to the current thinking and the best practices in the national arena, particularly as we speak to the active shooter. Today, we have done that in terms of, we've had lieutenants and Chief Jones have visited every site within the school district, every school, and they have looked for specifics in the emergency operation plans, the site development, and things that they can recommend and have recommended and changes that will enhance our overall security and safety. Security and safety is dependent significantly on staff. As we all know, Ms. Tuff in DeKalb County did a great job. Staff, one person influencing the environment, that's called leadership, can make the difference. But systems also play a great part into it. Clarke County School District has some great systems in place, and particularly in the newer designed schools. The ones that have been recently renovated were renovated with certain security measures in mind, but also in a manner to enhance learning. The only way to absolutely protect anyone is to build something like we call the maximum security prisons, where people are kept 24 hours, 23 hours locked down in the supermaxes. that's not conducive to learning. You have to reach a balance of protecting children, protecting staff, protecting faculty, and kids learning. We think that you are on the road to doing that. Our two people who looked at it, one has a master's degree in public administration with added training in crime prevention through environmental design. The other has a master's degree within homeland security and emergency management. Chief Jones has significant experience in this regard. Assistant Chief Green oversighted their work, and he's going to present to you tonight on a high-level basis on what we have done. If the board members desire specific details, please contact the superintendent. We can drill down and tell you about specific issues and challenges. Since we are in open forum tonight and recorded, it's not in the public interest us to discuss specifics about how school sites operate, in my opinion. With that, would suggest to you that these emergency issues that have occurred in school generally are over with in 5 minutes. That's why staff at school is so critical. That's why the design and security in the system is so critical. We have trained in many of your schools' buildings and sites, not just in the last 6 months, not just in the last 12 months. We've used, in this cooperative spirit, we have been cooperating with your school district and have had knowledge of building sites for years, and we will continue to enhance our knowledge as technology allows, and the school district will continue to enhance that technology. Assistant Chief Green.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's good to be here tonight, audience. As the chief said, we just want to give you a very high-level overview of the review that we did, our staff along with Chief Jones of the schools. We're not going to get into any specifics for each individual building. We'll give you an idea of what kind of things we looked at. Just a little bit of history related to the law enforcement side of it. Traditionally, law enforcement response to events like what happened at Columbine and in Sandy Hook was a come, wait, and approach design. As you saw in the videos of Columbine, officers came, they waited outside, we waited for special response teams to assemble and then go into the school. The paradigm of that changed after Columbine, after looking at the events, studying what happened, looking at the offenders, things that they did. The paradigm now for law enforcement is respond, enter the school immediately, whether it's one officer or two officers or the SRO on site, and stop the active threat immediately. And I think that what you will see is a change in the paradigm in the response of schools, in the response of teachers, and in the response of what we do with students in relation to that as well. One of the things that the police department has been doing is actively training all of our officers on response to active shooters. We have been doing this for years with the University of Georgia, generally during the winter semester when students go home during Christmas break. We've actually been practicing this in closed down faculty building or buildings over there, where we would team up with the University of Georgia. We'd use what's called simunitions. We'd put gear on. We'd have role players, and we put the officers into active situations that would demonstrate to them what they could potentially run into either on the University of Georgia campus, which is where we were practicing, and of course after Sandy Hook we saw where that could actually roll over into public schools. And as recently as this spring, we started training each and every officer again on active shooter response, and in fact we actually used Cedar Shoals High School for one of those events in May after school got out, where we involved University of Georgia, Athens, Clarke County, some Georgia State Patrol officers responded, and was overseen by our SRT members as well as FBI input from some of their specialists. So the Athens Clarke County Police Department is prepared. The school district security people were involved in those active shooter scenario practices as well. So the training is taking place, and we are prepared to deal with it should it ever happen here. Hopefully not. In terms of what occurred here in January after the event last September, the Athens Clarke County Police command staff met with Dr. Lanou and his administrative staff, and we decided that it would be a good idea to review the emergency operation plans for the school district, and then more specifically each and every school. As you know, the SROs are in the middle schools and the high schools in the school district, but elementary schools were out of everyone's mind. Not a threat area that anybody had even thought about, for obvious reasons. Who would do such a thing as what happened in Connecticut? So, with Lieutenant Soriano, Lieutenant Patterson, and Chief Jones, each and every school was visited from January to about the end of April, and an evaluation was done of the facilities, the property that they sat on, the access and egress to those schools, and we looked at each and every one of those in terms of, as the chief said, CPTED, which is crime prevention through environmental design. That would be looking at things like the shrubbery around the buildings, the trees that are around the facility, whether there's balusters outside to prevent a vehicle from coming over a curb. All of the physical aspects of the facilities were looked at and inspected for each and every school, like I say. And then we looked at the technology that was in place in those schools currently, recommendations that could be made to improve the technology in terms of communication within the school, communication between the school and the police department, between the school and the school district offices, what currently exists, what improvements could potentially be made, and that was also included in the report. The current plans, emergency operation plans, are all based on FEMA and GEMA recommendations of an all hazards approach, meaning we incorporate all things that potentially could take place in regards to responding both within the facility and also outside resources coming. It also includes the latest FBI recommendations, although the report from Sandy Hook has not been released by the Connecticut State Police, who are investigating that incident to know exactly what best practices are going to come out of that, what recommendations are going to be made. The FBI has looked at national incidents all over the country for years, and they do have their own recommendations as to what things ought to take place and how law enforcement should respond. It also includes national best practices from education facilities in terms of lessons learned, like Virginia Tech and other higher education facilities where these have taken place, as well as primary and high schools across the country. And then also we looked at localized and site-specific to this district. Where do the roads come in from? What neighborhoods surround them? Where would be good rallying points outside the schools? The other issue that we looked at was the shared responsibility and the defined roles of everybody within, players within the school district and the police department and the county. What would the role of the board be in such a situation, or the administration, faculty, key participants at each site? You know, an education process I've heard, sure all of you have heard about see something, say something. Something as simple as that is encouraging faculty, staff, students, bus drivers, anyone else on the facilities that if you see something, call. Tell the administration, call the police, tell the SRO, inform and advise. Staff key participants, as Chief mentioned, Ms. Tuft in DeKalb County is a perfect example of how staff on site can have a huge impact on what occurs in an incident, and not necessarily just an active shooter, but those staff, if they're properly trained and have the skills, can delay, can postpone, can respond and react and provide even first aid in some situations before actual emergency responders arrive. And then use appropriate technology to provide and enhance the national best practices, such as sharing, viewing the security cameras. We realize, and we've been advised, that many of the cameras at the schools are internet protocol cameras that we potentially could have access to in our own 911 communications center that Chief Jones has access to here. Obviously, if we can see in the schools as well as him, it may enhance our ability to respond, know what to respond with, how to respond, where to respond to within the school. And then we want to look at prevention, protection, mitigation, the response, and the recovery work to negate anything ever occurring there. And those are the main 5 areas that each of those reports will address and have addressed. As I said, ACCPD has been training for this long before Sandy Hook occurred, to include live training in various structures in Clarke County. And you'll find that we've incorporated the very best practices that we've been able to find in this report. The recommendation for each school has come forward. We did meet with Dr. Lanou and the administration earlier this month, the end of August, went over what the findings of each of those schools were. And now Chief Jones and our lieutenants are working towards developing, at least we made recommendations to him towards developing each of the emergency operation plans for the specific schools in the school district.
Terrific. And I'll just ask Chief Jones to talk, and then if there's some questions, but obviously we need to have someone in-house that heads our security and safety, and I can't say enough about Chief Jones. If you haven't worked with him, he's very methodical, doesn't get emotional, he just stays the course, has a tremendous way with our young adults, our young kids, a tremendous way with our parents, but it's also the day-to-day activities that play equally into this equation of how to resolve issues so they don't come to a point of a higher frustration level. But I can't say enough about the chief and his ability that when there's issues, it's taken care of to a level of some satisfaction, even in the most difficult times. And I think when we looked at our protocols, we were really pleased at where we're at, that we have the infrastructure and the backbones. It's like anything else. When another crisis, you have to determine, do I have to ratchet it up? Where do I have to go? Every time something happens, we respond, but we have always been in a good place, and I don't think we've been in just such a better chase, Chief Platt and then followed by Chief Jones. So I just wanted to make sure that to recognize the chief and his work in collaboration with Clarke County.
Thank you, Dr. Lanou, members of the board. As Dr. Lanou stated earlier, we really appreciate everything that the Athens-Clarke County Police Department, all of their support, and we would not be able to do everything that we do without them. I'm going to speak to you briefly about some of the recommendations that they made from the assessment reports, just things that, just basic things that we are doing and that we just needed to address a little bit more. And these were things that we were able to easily address just after we received the report. One of those things was ensuring that all of our staff members are currently wearing their ID cards. All staff members know that they are supposed to wear ID cards, but because situations from day to day, we tend not to always wear those. So we made sure that we sent out a memo to all of our staff members to remind them that they should always wear the ID cards, so that in an emergency, they will be easily identified by the law enforcement that might have to come to the facilities. We work with our technology department to ensure that our telephone systems are up to snuff. We've always had very good communication systems as far as our telephones, but we wanted to ensure that each classroom was able to communicate with 911 in a situation or an emergency that might come up. Again, that was not something that we did not have in place, but some of our phones had to be directed to the receptionist, who would then dial 911. What we're doing at this point is making sure that each and every classroom can dial 911 to give specific information, so that it won't have to go through any different communications. We have upgraded our radio system, working with our transportation department to ensure that all staff members who are outside of facilities, outside of range of telephones, would have a communication device, a radio, to contact the office in the case of an emergency. Those radios are equipped with emergency buttons that can communicate with district administration in situations. So we have a means of communicating both inside and outside of our building. As Assistant Chief Green mentioned, cutting away the shrubbery and making sure that we have a clear line of sight at all of our buildings. Those are things that we're working with our plant services department to ensure that everything that all of our windows are clear of anything that would block and not allow law enforcement to see a situation that might be occurring inside of a building. This would also assist outside of regular school hours if, in a situation where there might be intruders inside of a building and the shrubberies are blocking the line of sight. So we're doing everything that we can to ensure that we can take care of the small things that were mentioned in the reports, things that won't cost us any additional money. As Assistant Chief Green mentioned, the emergency operations plan, and Chief Lumpkin said that we've always had that emergency operations plan. What we're doing now is to update it to ensure that we have, or that we are using the best practices to ensure that we have an all hazards approach in that plan, and to ensure that we have an active threat plan in place that's approved by our district administration. And finally, we discussed, or a recommendation was that we come up with a training video to ensure that all of our staff members know how to react in certain situations. And those are things that we are working on as a district to ensure that we have everything in place to make sure that everyone knows how to respond in a situation. Now, we understand that no two situations may be the same. But what we plan to do is to prepare people as best as we can to ensure that they know how to react and not just not do anything in a situation that might occur.
Terrific. Again, I think the details, they said they would go deeper, so let's not go too deep, but are there any general questions or thoughts or from the board, from?
I just have a comment. As a former Marine and a graduate of the Athens Clarke County Citizens Police Academy, the father of a senior federal law enforcement agent, I'm very, very sensitive to these kind of issues, and I think we're extremely fortunate and blessed to have Chief Lumpkin and his team. For those of you that haven't had the opportunity to be exposed to it, this county police force has the highest levels of accreditation, recognition that police forces all over the country can get. They're in the very, very top tier. And I've just been so impressed by what I've seen out of these folks. They do a great job, and I know we're the chief here too as well. So we appreciate all that they're doing. And I personally, we want to stay on top of all these things. There's only so much you can do, but we appreciate everything you're doing.
I was just going to say I appreciate the presentation today. It's usually we hear this after something terrible happens, but I think you're like ahead of the curve, and I always knew that you had good security here, but I think these updates every now and then helps all of us be more aware of what we need to do, and help even our teachers and our staff stay on, because we get lax. But I think these presentations every few months would be good, just to reinforce what you're doing, because I kind of think we take you for granted sometimes, Fabian. but you do watch for us at night, and I mean, even when we walk out at night, he stands out there and he waits till everybody pulls away and drives away. Anything could happen, and he didn't have to, I don't think he has to do that, but I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
As do I.
Thank you.
Terrific. Well, that ends. Thank you again. It's a continuous journey, but it's the right journey. It's the right conversation. It's the right people.
Thank you very much.
And that ends my report for this evening.
Okay, we're down to item E, board reports.
I'm not sure we're having a GSBA report.
There's no director's report this evening, so we move on to F.
Okay, F, and again, this is not an action item, and people may have questions, but we're going to place the policies for purchasing, the regulation for purchasing, and the policy for change orders. That would be made public after this evening. I think the board members received that in their packet.
Any questions? Okay, we'll move on to item G, action item.
Go to action items. First, I'd ask we approve the minutes from the previous meetings. That would be August 8th.
We have a motion to approve the minutes. Ms. Thornton, second from Ms. Davis. All those in favor? It's unanimous.
I'd ask that we recommend that we approve the financial report for May of 2013.
A motion to approve the financial report. Ms. Williams, second by Ms. Davis. All those in favor? Motion carries. Consent
Ask
agenda.
that we approve the consent agenda. That would be items 3 through 15.
All right, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda, Ms. Ellis? A second from Mr. Parks. All those in favor for the consent agenda? Vote is unanimous.
Number 16, the copier contract, which generated much discussion at our work session. Again, it is our position with this contract that we get the best price, that we no longer buy our network printers, that digital technology is incorporated into copiers, which in the end will save us dollars. We've also incorporated some language about the regulations about renewing contracts, because this would be a 60-month contract. But I'd ask that we approve the award for the copier service contract to the lowest responsive bidder, Milner, in the amount of approximately $21,998 monthly. That's our projected use. The contract is for a term of 60 months beginning September 1st, 2013. In accordance with OCGA 20-2-506, the contract will terminate at the end of each calendar year of the term. Will not terminate, but will automatically be renewed for the following calendar year unless the district takes affirmative action. Let me just clarify that it would continue to roll over unless the board decides to take action at the end of that year.
Do we have a motion to approve the copier service contract? We have moved by Dr. Spangler. We have a second from Ms. Ellis. All those in favor?
Can I ask
Any
a
discussion?
question
Any
first?
discussion?
Is the date supposed to be September 1st or October 1st? September 1st was a couple weeks ago.
It would not start till October 1. Larry?
I believe that's correct, October 1.
I think we're 1 month behind. October 1, thank you.
I think last week it said September
Yeah.
30th. Was my I was trying to pull that up, but
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other?
Just to note that this contract that we have with RICO ends this month.
Okay. With an amended date of October 1st, 2013. Are there any other comments about the copier contract? Any discussion? All right. All those in favor? Motion passes. Next item.
The next item, approve the sale of 13.836 acres of property on the Oglethorpe Avenue Elementary School campus to the Young Men's Christian Association of Athens, Georgia, for the amount of $83,000. The property is outlined on the attached survey dated April 26, 2013.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the property purchase? Ms. Williams, do we have a second?
I'll second for Mr. Payne.
Moved by Ms. Davis. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor? Motion carries.
Number 18 is the Energy Conservation and Financial Services Contract. Approve a contract agreement with Georgia Power Energy Services for the work known as Cedar Shoals High School and Hillsman Middle School HVAC renovations. That was option 2, the plan that we were presented with for Georgia Power.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the Energy Conservation and Financial Services Contract? Option 2, moved by Ms. Ellis, seconded by Dr. Spangler. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? One opposed. Motion carries.
The next piece is to apply for a capital outlay application. Of course, that is to receive dollars back for some of our construction work. So I'd ask that we approve the FY 2015 15 Godot capital outlay application is submitted and approved by the Godot for Clarke Central High School, Hillsman Middle, and Barnett Shoals Elementary. And those amounts are shown on the board.
Do we have a motion to approve the capital outlay application? Mr. Parks, and seconded by Ms. Williams. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries.
The next one is the Chromebook purchase, and as I said, some of the pre-board notes were regarding to this. And I talked about it last week. This moves us to a one-to-one initiative, completes that one-to-one for grades 3 through 8. It continues that we have a 1-to-3 or 3-to-1 ratio in K2, which is we use stations. It will also bring us much closer at the high school, even though each high school has different configurations. And it also is monumental because we are using a combination of funds. We typically use our grant funds. We're luckily fortunate that we have striving readers. I don't have the exact amount. We're working on that right now, but I believe certainly our grant funding we're hoping would cover up to 20% of the cost. That would be our goal. We also have Title I funds that have carryover funds that we're looking at. But in either case, we have maintained our instructional funds for replacement of textbook series and et cetera. I think this is monumental because for the first time when we shift, we're making that shift from total textbooks into one-to-one digital learning environments. That means that that's how we'll be accessing digital resources. And we've put in motion now, we've set the base that as we move forward, instead of spending lots of money in the typical textbooks, I believe that we'll be able to refresh and continue our movement from one-to-one. So this sets the base that allows us to take the next step. I'm asking at this point that we approve the purchase of up to 1,800. Met with with the instructional technology folks and went through every school on Tuesday night to ensure that we're 1-to-3 in K2, to ensure that we were in 3 through 8, that we were 1-to-1. We've built in some spares, and we built in for extras with some of the repairs that we have. This also allows for Cedar Shoals to get up to 100 as part of Striving Readers Grant. As you know, they were all 9th grade last year. It also purchases up to 58 carts. You have to ask why we have carts. Carts are not used so we can move them around. Carts are just a storage that when kids are in a classroom, we have to have a way to store them. We have to have a way to plug them in and power them up. So the carts aren't really for mobility. They're more for organization and power them up. And that's the best way for us to put them in each classroom. We went off the state bid list for this, and it happens that the Chromebook purchase and the carts purchase would go to the same company. So I'm asked that we approve the purchases up to 1,800 Chromebooks and up to 58 carts from CDW-G utilizing the TCPN contract, that's the state pricing, at a total cost not to exceed $478,440 for the Chromebooks and a total cost not to exceed $92,800 for the carts.
Do we have a motion to approve the Chromebook purchase?
I'll make a motion.
Moved by Ms. Ellis, seconded by Dr. Spangler. All those in, any discussion?
Just a question, if I might.
Sure.
It certainly is monumental. Do you have any concept of where we are relative to other school districts? I would think we're well in the lead on that.
I would say probably, and I can't speak across the state. I mean, there are certainly districts across our country that have gone one-to-one. I think if you look at most of the neighboring schools in Georgia, most have got probably a high school or one school. Certainly some like Forsyth has gone to a one-to-one initiative, but that's really predicated on BYOT. I think we're probably one of the only districts that has made the commitment to go one-to-one and purchase that one-to-one and begin to leverage resources differently than in the past. I think it's really hard to leverage that one-to-one until you can actually get there. And once you get there, you can perpetuate it. It's just getting there. And we've been fortunate through SPLOS, through Striving Readers, through Title I, and now through some of the local resources that we are almost there. So the answer is, around the country you will find pockets. You won't find, I don't think, many in Georgia that has taken a district-wide one-to-one initiative in the way we have.
And so are we ahead of schedule on that plan to go one-to-one in K through?
According to our strategic plan, we're on schedule.
That's good.
We're on schedule.
And so what is our life expectancy on the Chromebooks? How long do we think we'll?
We put in, for our SPLOS money, one of the strategic moves that we made is that we have, and Ted, it might fluctuate a little bit, but we were somewhere around $750 a student that we had targeted for devices in the 5-year plan. We made a decision early on that we did not want to spend all of $750 or $800 on, say, a laptop. And so we looked at different solutions to bring a price point down to half. That way we would have the option to refresh if we had to use SPLOS at the 2.5-year mark. Right now, because we're a little bit delayed in some of our rollout, so the answers are back on track. But ours is a 3-year, it's a 3-year proposal for a device that's $260. That's our target. Our goal is that we can move away from some of the SPLOS dollars, that we can continue a cycle, that through some of our own operational budget we can keep this going. But we have a whole nother refresh cycle that's still in the SPLOS planning budget that I hope we may not have to use, or it's there. So I don't think we're positioned ourselves where in 2 years we're going to be a certain percentage not having devices. I think it's going to evolve one more time.
Question.
Ms. Ellis.
I'm having a hard time articulating this in my head, so bear with me for a second.
Sure.
But as we're transitioning from traditional textbooks to technological,
Digital
resources and digital textbooks,
digital content.
and I think it's coming out of 2 pots of money, but just to clarify, is there any fear or any worry, any need for concern that our current textbooks, as we're moving, are getting outdated or overused or not refreshed or not replenished, but yet still daily used in the classroom, and the teachers are still reliant on them until we get moved over? Since we're not refreshing those textbooks right now, is there any concern that some of them are not suitable for use and we don't have a, does that make sense?
I mean, I think we have to know that we're still always going to purchase some books. I mean, it's not all going to be digital content, but some of our typical subject area series, which sometimes it's even difficult. I asked Dr. Price to address that, but if those books aren't aligned to standards, I think what we're finding more and more is that you use parts of a book, you use certain sections of the book, but the book in and of itself is not the curriculum. And what we're starting to see, at least up to 8th grade, and then we're starting to see that in 9th grade, is that as we build greater and better and more targeted digital content, that shift is coming. We couldn't see the total shift till you go 1-to-1. You couldn't do it with a 2-to-1 environment. But when we piloted it last year in 4th and 5th grade and made some concessions, we're seeing just this growing attraction and growing use of digital resources. So I'm not worried that we're going to, quote, I guess, wear out books.
I mean, are we refreshing the books that need to be refreshed
yeah.
at the same time, or are we replacing that money with it? I'm just.
Well, first of all, the only 2 areas would be math and ELA,
Right.
because we moved to the Common Core.
Okay.
And a lot of the vendors really weren't ready for that transition. We were very fortunate. We're very fortunate in Georgia that our Georgia performance standards were already very closely aligned to Common Core. So we can continue to use the textbooks that we have with some supplemental materials. So that's what we've done, is we've gotten together with the vendor and asked them to provide us with some supplemental materials to make sure that we do have the resources for our teachers that are aligned to Common Core.
Okay.
And this year, we would look at what's out there and what's available and what's the best way to go as far as supporting that transition from the Georgia Performance Standards to Common Core. So I think that one of the things we want to do is to be able to leverage all the districts in the state, and if you check, many districts put off adopting a textbook.
Right.
So we just had a conversation today in a meeting that we had in Atlanta. How can we all get together to make sure that we're able to bring down the prices of those textbooks, or look at digital resources?
I mean, I think one of the directions that we're going with the state with, and I've talked about this before, the new learning object repository in the state building digital content. And we're leading that piece. So we've been developing that access point that for us to make this step, we have to begin to invest statewide into producing and providing quality resources, not just for us, that all states could use. And we have to put our resources into the infrastructure needed to access those materials. So the state, we're really pleased at this point is building that digital materials, and I think it's going to be really powerful if the state as a whole, and we talked about that today, can begin to start to leverage the state need and purchase materials for everyone.
And I want to say that if the teachers tell us there's a hole, there's a gap,
Yeah.
we then go out and see what resources are there to fill in those gaps. So we will purchase supplemental materials to support gaps in the textbooks that we currently have.
Okay, and then my other question is, it's two-part. Will it look like, when we're one-to-one in the grade levels as stipulated, will it look like a child is assigned a Chromebook and they take it home in their backpack at night and they bring it back to school, or are they staying at the school the entire time? They're staying at the school, right?
Yeah.
And then they can use their memory sticks and things like that to
Everything's in,
transport
everything,
data.
everything's
it's
in
the
the clouds.
And then the other question is, I did go to a mini session at GSBA winter seminar last year that was it for South County? This
Right.
one-to-one BYOT. And they talked so much about how their servers after hours were so much more used than even during school hours, because kids went home and were accessing all of the resources from the school, doing their homework and things like that, which I thought was incredibly interesting and very cool. Have we increased our capacities here and stuff to prepare for that and all of that
Yes.
sort of thing?
Yes, I mean,
Yeah.
And I went to that seminar too, and again, I'm excited about getting to one-to-one. I'm real excited about that in the classroom. My only concern and it's not even a reservation, but I know that the community has a role here, because I think that, again, the less we rely on a physical textbook to take home, the more we have to equip our children to be able to access this information after hours in the cloud, or we'll start to see that gap widen very quickly. And that's a grave concern for me.
and I want
so
you
we need to figure out how we engage the community more to make sure that all of our kids have access to the cloud once they leave school.
And I want you, I think we can look at it as we can let it get away from us or take an opportunity to actually aggressively go at it. And
Sure.
the position I've taken, if we wait to say when everyone has access today, we'll never get there.
Absolutely.
And we'll just never get there. So our goal is let's roll it up, let's find where the gaps are, and fix the gaps. And that's our target.
I'm good with that.
Since everybody has acknowledged there's going to be some gaps, I won't belabor there. My question is about money. When will we start seeing will we see a decrease? You know, I'm assuming the books are going to start like not being ordered as much. The hard part. When are we going to see a budgetary or finance impact going this route?
You know, right. We're seeing it this year with paper, but I think the other part, I guess, I would look at it, just twist that a little bit for me, is what people have typically done is they say, I want books and paper, and then I want technology over here, and you have both. Now it costs you a lot of money. But I think we're going to certainly save money, but also we're going to get up-to-date resources that are current, and we're going to provide our students with a whole different set of skill set about the technological tools to access their learning. So I think for us to look at it as a monetary piece to do what we're doing, the same thing, I would say no. If we do that, we wouldn't save any money because we got both going.
Right.
Our goal is to look at our costs, to leverage them differently to do different work.
And had we adopted a math and an ELL textbook, K-12, it would have been over $2 million.
Okay.
We have put that off, so we saved right now $2 million just this year.
And so, and that's good to know. And so I'm really getting geared up for the next budget session. Because I'm getting up for next year. So when we look at our budget for next year, we should see some type of something, a decrease, or or an increase in.
It's already in this year's budget.
Okay.
But I think what we're happening, again, I think we're leveraging resources differently.
Okay.
So instead of buying $2 million worth of textbooks that are out of date as soon as you get them, and then you go through attrition and you lose them and et cetera, what we're saying is we're using a $260 Chromebook that at this point appears to be very durable and pretty simple, used to go up into the clouds. And if we can begin to connect digital content for even 60 or 70% of our content, I think that's going to benefit us tremendously.
And I don't think we're at a point to totally get rid of books.
No, I just would hate to see us ordering the same amount of books with the, that's what I want to make sure that I'm clear on.
We did not order books. I mean, the reason we're able to do this instructionally is simply this. And I think it's also important that you please don't envision our classrooms with a student sitting there in a Chromebook doing work and independent work. That is not what it's about. The fact is that kids use multiple tools, and I would say this, that probably you're going to look in our classrooms, they're much, much more interactive, both individually and personally and around content than they ever have. And because before people just sat there independently and did their work, but you're not going to see, these are not all just driven units where someone does them independently. This is designed to access digital content and to construct learning outcomes very, very different than we have before in the process. And we've already seen it, and it is so much more interactive than it's ever been. So I just want to make sure people know that our devices aren't about isolation and not having conversation. In fact, it's growing almost exponentially.
Dr. Speck.
This was said last week at our work session, but I think it bears repeating just for the benefit of the public who's looking at that list and sees that CDWG isn't the low bidder. Right. The low bidder does not include the management console license, which we asked for, and that's why it doesn't appear that we're going with the low bidder if what you're looking at is that list. The next page shows that software is missing, just in case anybody thought we didn't know how to do math.
Thank you very much. So you're right. That did not complete the console controlling software.
I know.
Thank you.
Any further questions?
We want people to think we were crazy about that.
All those in favor? It's unanimous.
It's a good day, CCSD. I'm going to turn this over to the Vice President.
So this afternoon, I think I owe the board a little bit of an apology here. I was very concerned about making sure all the governance team self-assessment materials were going to be properly submitted so that we could get our application in for the board acknowledgement as a quality board through GSBA. And I did not, I wasn't focused on the board travel. Now, we have approved a board tuition and travel budget through our budget process that we voted on in June. And understand the goal was to have actually a total line item for each board member of what the total cost would be. That has not happened the way I know that you wanted it to, but we do have the annual conference table here. That's how we've done it in the past, and so I would suggest we just approve the board member annual, the conference, the actual items that board members are asking to go to. If there's any comments on that, please express them. The table that we have here, I have not, my attendance is not indicated to the GSBA December conference. I would like to include that. And other than that, though, the is there any comments about this? And then do we have a motion to approve the board travel budget?
I'm totally confused.
So there's 4 other board members that didn't indicate they wanted to go anywhere. Should we confirm that that is the case? And it's not just that they
No.
didn't get theirs in?
No.
Okay.
So if we'll go through and ask each board member if there's anything that they have on here that they want to remove or add, we should do that now. And then, yes.
Mr. Worthy did call me and told me that he wanted that NSBA. Now, I have not spoken with Mr. Payne.
Right.
Just so you know, the reason I put those down is that traditionally that is
That's
what
what
he
he does.
attends.
Correct.
So that's why I put those there, but he has not said so, and based on what's going on with him, I'm not exactly sure.
Right.
But he is still the regional president, so
He's
he
the
is.
District
or
11
Director, so he's expected to be at those. I think we can reasonably expect that he's gonna do that. I want to continue my training as a board member, but I do not care to necessarily go to the conference to
Okay.
do that. And I have not found those courses outside of the conference. And I'm reasonably sure that I don't have the discipline to take them online right now, so
Okay.
sometime I will do that, but not today.
All right.
Could I would make a note that the board training should be covered, at least that's required for board members through our own
Right.
in-house schedule.
There are some courses in board finances that I want to attend.
And GSBA does occasionally send out
Right.
notices
The
about
notices.
other conferences that
We have
we
stuff
can
in
pass on
Macon
to.
and
Right, so
So
they are
that's what I
available.
wanted, I want to reserve some space to
Right.
be able to do that without committing today, because I don't yet know when they're going to be or that my schedule will allow me to do it.
Mrs. Williams did that last year because you said you didn't want to be involved in any of these conferences, but then something comes up, she wanted to be able to do it, and something did, and she was able to attend that, so we can do the same thing.
And I think that's appropriate. I know that we've, what we've agreed to as a board is that if a board member is going to participate in something, we would like to get the full board to
Sure.
approve it.
Yeah.
And I think that we all agree that training is important, and we've been supportive of that in the past, so.
Could I just make a certainly comment, at least from observations, that usually the more larger ones that are several nights or out of state, people have been able to go to the board and approve in a timely fashion. There are some times when there might be a day training that certainly let us know with the board chair, and we've been able to process that and move to the board. And I think those on short term have been typically the 1 days that come up, but they haven't been multi-day events.
Right.
Well, not that I totally ignored our directions, but when I was talking to David, I guess it was yesterday or today, whenever we talked, I thought we were going to kind of talk about it tonight. That's why. So I guess my point is, I'll just do my regular two, the GSBA summer as the delegate, and the Macon as the
Macon one, which I don't have the date
yeah.
of yet.
So I'll do that, and I'll just go along with everybody else if something comes up.
And you want to go to the superintendent portion then?
Yeah, you can.
Just for the, just for
We all
the.
want to
Right.
do
Just so
that,
you
but
know,
not
did you
at
ever
that
hear
huge
from
amount.
Mr. Rossi? I have not either. I'm still attempting to find out about whether it's a luncheon or dinner, and if we can purchase individual tickets. So I'll get back to you all just as soon as I can.
All right. Okay. Is there a, so you've added in for Ms. Thornton, the,
Superintendent portion,
Okay.
GSBA June conference, and the GSBA advocacy one.
okay. All right. Is there
And then
any
Mrs.
other?
Williams has said, do you want to just hold off to see?
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Do we have a motion to
How
approve
about,
the?
excuse me, how about Mr. Parks?
Nothing right
Nothing?
now.
Okay.
Is there a motion to approve this conference schedule? Motion moved by Ms. Davis, seconded by Ms. Williams. All those, are there any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, number 22, I'll turn this over to Mr. Hoff, is we need to appoint a GSBA legislative liaison for 2014.
And that is, do we have, at this point, we've talked about Ms. Thornton filling that. Are you still
Yes.
accepting that? Okay. Do we have a motion for Ms. Thornton?
I nominate Ms. Thornton.
All right.
I second that.
Okay.
Y'all think that's an honor, don't y'all? Don't be fooled.
Yeah. All right. All those in favor?
No, I need a motion, a second.
I thought
Second.
Ms. Parker.
I second.
Ms.
Ms. Davis, who seconded?
Ms.
did.
Davis
Mr. Parker.
first. Made the motion.
It was
Thank
pretty
you.
quick, you know.
Yeah, it was very
We
clear.
don't want her to change her mind, though.
Okay. All those in favor?
Okay.
Motion carries.
Number 23, and my apologies, in the midst of all of our items at the work session, we really should suspend the rules and approve the policies that regarding social security numbers and school admissions, because those are in place now. We have to do those. So what I'm going to ask is that we suspend the rules for policy JBC and JBC3, and then followed by a motion to approve these policies. And with no objections, the regulation would automatically go into effect. So I need first to recommend a motion to suspend the rules for policies JBC and JBC3.
Do we have a motion? Ms. Davis? Ms. Thornton, second. Any discussion? I would just ask, these are policies that we have to change because of the state legislation.
Because of, yes,
Okay. All right.
it's a mandate.
I'm good with that.
Okay. All right. All in favor? Motion carries.
Now I'd ask that we approve policy JBC and JBC3.
Do you have a motion? Ms. Thornton, have a second from Ms. Williams. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries.
And I'll look around the room. If there are any objections, or if there are not any objections, the regulation will go into effect that supports the policy. Okay? I'd ask just to make personnel recommendations last, if I could just go to number 25. That was the amendment. I recommend that we submit an application for this board to GSB for consideration as a level 1 quality board. Recognition.
All right. And what this is if by October 1st, we have to submit this application. So we're just acknowledging as a board that we're going to apply for that.
Good.
What's the work?
The work is we have fulfilled the criteria to meet the recognition for quality board. And so, but you actually have to vote on it too.
Do the documentation on it?
Right. All right. Is there a motion to fulfill the application for quality board for GSBA? Moved by Dr. Spangler. Have a second by Ms. Williams. Any discussion? Yes.
And it's by October the 1st? And who's gonna do the application piece?
Yeah. Well, this one, it's done.
Okay.
We're ready.
Oh, well, okay.
We're ready.
Ready
We
to
could have
go.
started there, been done already.
We got it covered.
All right.
Anissa does, I should say.
Just to make the point, this is the only level of recognition the board can apply for this year. They don't open up the distinguished board option until next year.
Okay.
But you have to go through this recognition. You have to go through this rung on the ladder before you can go to the next one. So, all those in favor? Motion carries.
I need to ask our attorney, because I need a question, because we might have missed a step on an item. We had talked at the workshop about the Beacon Award, and that was with the Banner Herald that we applied. We asked for their consideration, and we wanted to consider it again, and I should have put that on the amendment. Mike, is there any way we can amend this agenda to add a board?
Yes, we can do it by motion for reconsideration of the agenda and then add it to the agenda.
Okay. Given that, I would ask for a reconsideration of the agenda.
We have a motion for
I
reconsideration?
move that we can reconsider to add the Beacon Award.
All right, Mr. Clark seconds. And any discussion of the item? No. Okay. All those in favor to reconsider the agenda?
With that, then, I would like to add the agenda to nominate for the Beacon Award.
All right. We have a motion to nominate for the Beacon Award. We have a
I'm only adding it to the agenda, correct?
Okay, adding
Yeah,
it
you're
to
only
the
adding it to the agenda now. One more vote, and then you can vote on the award
Okay,
itself.
all right. Is there a motion to amend the agenda?
To add this to the agenda,
Yeah,
yes.
just
Add this to the agenda. Moved by Dr. Spangler, seconded by Mr. Parks. All those in favor? Motion carries.
So now that becomes number 26. Number 26 would be to submit the nomination for the Beacon Award.
Do we have a motion to move by Ms. Williams, seconded by Ms. Davis? Any discussion?
More for Anissa.
Yes. It's done.
All right. All those
Could I hire you?
Okay, all right. Okay, all those in favor?
After that many motions, let's try to get it on the agenda the first time. But thank you for giving us some clarification. And the final item is I recommend approval of the personnel recommendations.
We have a motion to approve the personnel recommendation. Dr. Spangler, seconded by Ms. Thornton. All those in favor?
Got a question?
Yes.
I noticed that some people are changing, it says changing funding, or funding changes or something.
Those are our internal notes that we move some from grant money to regular money.
So does that come out of general funds now?
I have to go back and look for which one it is.
It's about 4 or 5 of them. I'll vote for it, but then I would surely like clarification. How about that?
We have not added any positions, you know what I mean, outside of our pool positions. I'd have to go back and see which one that was.
The counselor changing funding codes for the counselor at
Yeah,
games was one of
and
them. Changing funding.
and I think I got that we'll be revising this form in terms of what the board has to have, because we adjust those funding codes just depending on our grants and et cetera, so they're not new positions.
I'm okay with that. I just wanted clarification, and I'm going to vote for it, but I would like somebody to tell me what it means.
All right. So we've already seconded.
Oh,
the
now
motion.
y'all know over there, huh?
Yeah,
No, I'm trying to figure out.
yeah,
Okay. Oh,
that typically isn't on this report, so.
okay, we're good, we're good, we're good.
All right, all those in favor? Motion carries.
Okay.
So we have a motion to adjourn is where we are now, right?
Yes, we are, I'm done.
Moved by Ms. Davis. Second by Ms. Williams. All those in favor? Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.